welcome back to the Caleb Adamo channel. Today we are going to be looking at the new Adele album. It's just come out today. It's called 30, titled after when she started writing it, I believe, as all her albums are. It just came out today. I've been listening to it all morning and I just wanted to get kind of my thoughts and opinions out there onto a video as quickly as possible, so that I could kind of hopefully interact with some of you guys. So this is her fourth studio album, Adele's fourth studio album, following on from 19 that came out way back in 2008. Then we had 21 that came out in 2011. And then her most recent one before this album was 25, which came back in 2015, which came out in 2015 rather. So it's been about a, 6-year wait since we last got an Adele album, so I was hyped going into this. I really like Adele. I listened to Adele so much as I grew up. It was something I shared a lot with my dad, so it's something that meant a lot to me in terms of listening to Adele, enjoying Adele's music. And going into this, we obviously had the track, what's the track called? We had the track Easy on Me as a single that Adele released a couple of weeks ago before the release of the full album, that I really enjoyed. I thought was really good. It wasn't the power ballad that I expected her to release as a single, but it was really good and really enjoyable. So I had quite high expectations going into this. I know that Adele is a lot older now. I know that she's just been through a breakup, so I was expecting to hear a lot about that, and we do hear a lot about that. I was expecting basically the same Adele in terms of piano ballads, the exact same kind of moaning. People say it's moaning, but like this kind of whimsical longing for love, affection, that kind of thing. And I must say, things were a little bit different. Things were a little bit different on this album, and I'll come to that, but I don't think this was necessarily just an album about pining love, even though there are tracks that do kind of fulfill that job. I don't think it was solely an album about like longing for love and love that she's lost. So it starts with the song Strangers by Nature, which is this very cinematic kind of almost dreamlike opening. It was a good opening. I enjoyed it. She apparently talked on some interview somewhere that it was kind of an ode to Judy Garland and some of her work, and she basically talks about wondering if she'll ever be able to grow from her breakup and her past relationship. This album does serve, in terms of the track listing anyway, does serve as almost like a journey through her experience of her breakup, which was obviously quite a public breakup. Her, and I can't remember her husband's name, doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
Ex-husband, I should say. This album basically serves as like a way in which we as listeners can journey with her and see how she was doing at each phase of the breakup and how she's doing now in the most recent times, I guess. But yeah, so it was an interesting opening. Then we had the track Easy on Me, which I've already mentioned, which was the single before. I did a review for that. If you haven't seen that, I can put a link to it in the description below, but it's also on my channel, so have a look for that. And then the third track on the album was called My Little Love. So she seems to be battling with the idea basically of who she is. And I really like this song in terms of its content, because she was talking to her son, or it seemed like she was talking to her son, but she was trying to explain that she's not necessarily the person that she presents to him, and that she's a lot more complex, struggles with a lot of things, and was trying to be a lot more vulnerable with her child. And there were these inserts of spoken passages between her and her child throughout the song that made it quite emotional. It had this very kind of almost sultry 70s-esque sound going on with these kind of echoey vocals that kind of repeated over and over in the background. Apparently she was really inspired actually to put those voice notes in by the artists Skepta and Tyler the Creator, which is great that Adele listens to Skepta and Tyler the Creator. I know that she's quite plugged in with the hip-hop scene. I know she's friends with people like Drake and that, but it's awesome to see. And there's a really sad voicemail at the end of the track where she's talking to a friend, seemingly, and it's just really emotional and it works really well. You really feel the genuineness of her words rather than it feeling like something staged. You have the song Cry Your Heart Out, which is about depression, or seemingly about depression. I don't want to insert my own opinions as fact, but it does seem to be about depression and the struggles she faced after her divorce, but at the same time admitting how good it can be to allow yourself to feel and have those emotions, because that's how you were able to deal with them and move on. The next track on the album was another switch up in terms of sound. It was very different Adele. So this is where things got a little bit interesting. There was already a soundscape going on that was, not too dissimilar to what we expect from Adele, but had maybe developed a bit more modernised, but wasn't too much of a stretch from past Adele. But this song, track number 5, had this really kind of interesting upbeat tempo to it. It was not like Adele normally does, and she seemed to be battling with the idea of moving on and having relationships past her ex-husband. And it was good. It was interesting. I liked the upbeat nature to it. It was weird. It was weird hearing Adele taking a slightly different approach to her sonics on this project than the song Can I Get It? So this was a pop hit, or an attempt at a pop hit. So the guitar opens up basically like it's going to go into the song Riptide by Vance Joy, or at least that's what I thought of when I first heard it. Or maybe some kind of George Ezra tune. Then when the drum comes in, or the drums come in a little bit later into the track, it sounds like an Ed Sheeran song, or it sounds like it could be inspired by Ed Sheeran. Again, not like old Adele really. And I read that Max Martin worked on this track with her, so I'm assuming that this is just a very obvious attempt to be successful on the charts and on the radio. But yeah, it wasn't necessarily an awful song. I don't know if it was my favourite on the album. In fact, it wasn't my favourite on the album, I can say that with absolute certainty. But it was, yeah, something different, and you can't kind of moan that Adele never does anything different and everything she does is the same depressing piano ballad, and then not like it when she does switch up the sound a little bit. Then the track I Drink Wine was a really good song actually, about being comfortable with being yourself, and Adele being comfortable with being who she is, and the chorus is sang differently every single time, so it's very much kind of reminiscent of that old 60s kind of style. So yeah, that was interesting. Then we have the song All Night Parking, which was maybe my favourite song on the album. I need to listen to it a few more times before I'm absolutely certain, but was definitely one of my favourite songs on the album anyway. It's about basically the first relationship she had after her breakup. It wasn't a successful relationship, mind, but the first relationship she had after her breakup with her husband. Sounds like something Georgia Smith might make, and I'm a big fan of Georgia Smith. I liked the drums on this track. It was really weird. They were kind of trap hip-hop inspired drums, but Adele worked over it. It worked nicely, and again, it was something different, and she was switching up sounds, and she was focusing on kind of cultivating different ideas for this track list, and I liked it. It was cool. Then we had the track Woman Like Me. She sounds pretty angry on this track, I'm not gonna lie. She does seem to be quite in her feelings, in terms of they seem to be quite fresh and raw. I don't know how far after her breakup it was until she wrote this song, but they do seem to be quite fresh feelings, something that she's still holding on to and is still hurting her quite a bit. In terms of content, the track is about having a go at her ex, basically, for letting things fall apart, and she kind of chides him for allowing things to break down in their relationship and being apathetic and not really caring, which is quite sad to see, really, quite sad to hear. Then the track Hold On was a more hopeful track, to be honest, as Adele learns to keep going every day and growing in who she is and being more comfortable with who she is, and she's got her real life friends singing as part of like a put together choir towards the end of the song, just saying just hold on, which I can imagine was something that really helped get her through some of the darker times. And the track To Be Loved is a track where Adele details what it means for her to be loved and what it means for her to love. It was one of the closest tracks to typical Adele ballad styles that we get on the album, or like historically what Adele would normally do in terms of piano ballads. Very sad, very moving, very emotional. There wasn't too much difference to it. Not that it wasn't a good song, because I like and have loved that sound in the past, and I think if you like that sound historically, you're going to like it here on this track To Be Loved. But if you're looking for something different, this track isn't the one for you. Then the closer, Love Is a Game. So this was a very nostalgic, quite long actually, almost 7 minutes long, but beautiful outro, as Adele kind of leaves us with this sense of almost scathing towards the whole concept of love, as she seems to suggest that love has left her unable to love herself properly, and that is the real tragedy here, which is really interesting actually, because we hear Adele talking a lot about, you know, or on past albums we've heard Adele talking a lot about breakdowns of relationships and wanting them back and wanting to be okay and being upset and all this, but it's really nice hearing a massive focus on the album being on how Adele is able to love herself and how she's able to deal with her emotions and kind of decompartmentalize them, approach them in a healthy way and move on. And I think that's really cool to hear. It's nice hearing a bit of a switch up in terms of concept or in terms of idea, even though sure, this is a breakup album. And like I said at the start, she's detailing exactly how she, or how it worked during her breakup and the stages that she went through and the various emotions that she experienced. But it doesn't feel completely the same. It feels like there is a focus on the effect it's had on her as a person and her own self-identity. That's really good. It's really good messages to hear. I like that being a little bit different, you know. Sure, it's still Adele, and she still sings sad songs. You're going to get that with Adele. But it sounds like there is an effort or an attempt to be slightly different in terms of content on this project. And obviously she's matured, she's a lot older, she has different life experiences, she's got a kid now.
And let me see what you have. No!
It's just interesting to hear from her, to be honest, and I thought it was a good time. She did have an operation on her voice, which I mentioned and we spoke about briefly in the review of the Easy On Me single, and you kind of can tell a little bit on this. So there is not really any all-out heavy blasting ballads, power ballads, as we've kind of come to expect from Adele. It's a lot more delicate, a lot more intricate with her vocals. It's good, but it is different. It's noticeably different, let me put it that way. You'll notice that her vocals are more fine-tuned. They've probably been edited a bit more in the studio than the raw vocals that we've become accustomed to with Adele's music. In terms of the vocal ability, she has an amazing voice. She will always have an amazing voice, but it has changed and it has adapted. So if you're looking for that kind of raw power, aggression almost in her vocals, you're better off going back and listening to the older albums. You're better off listening to 21 or 19 even. Yeah, it's slightly altered on this album. It's a lot less strong vocally and a lot more delicate and intricate with various different riffs or tunes, falsetto, voices. Still works, it's still nice, I still enjoyed it. So overall, I'm feeling an 8.9 out of 10 currently, which might sound really harsh because I love Adele. She's probably one of my favourite artists maybe ever, and I wanted to give it higher, but it hasn't sat with me long enough yet. I didn't like the track, or I didn't love the track Can I Get It entirely. It felt a little bit too radio centered for me, and I think a couple of the tracks didn't impact me as hard as I wanted to, even though I did enjoy them. 8.9 is a very high score. It is a very good album, just maybe I wanted slightly more. That being said, like I always say on my reviews, that 8.9 could go up, it could go down, depending on the next few days, the next few weeks, how much I enjoy it, how much I don't enjoy it, how much I continue to listen to it. Follow me on Twitter if you want to be kept up to date with any kind of changing opinions on albums that I have, because I do change all the time, but I tend to post about it on Twitter, so the link will be in the description below for that. Please leave a like on the video. If you're new around here, please subscribe to the channel. It'll be awesome to see some new faces down in the comments below. Let me know if you agreed with what I was saying. Let me know if you had a different opinion. But Adele is back, and this album is going to be huge and good for Adele. I'm glad that she's back. All right, take care. Cheers.